on that note, we will go towards kind of the top MVP frontrunners that we've seen so far this season. I think there was a pretty dramatic point put last night by my personal frontrunner, LeBron James, who hit that big 3-point dagger late last night to seal the win against the Milwaukee Bucks. He has been fantastic. 36 years of age, 18th season in the league, and he's putting up 24, 8, and 7.5 assists. The Lakers are the number one seed. He's been their best player. He's been their leader. It's unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable. And even if you hate LeBron James, as many people do, you have to respect the brilliance that you see night in and night out from this guy. And there's so much you could say and so much that doesn't need to be said. But he's definitely my number one MVP front runner, just simply because of what he's doing production wise, and more importantly, where his team sits in the standings. Other kind of top, I'd go top 5 MVP, and then there's a couple guys on the outside. I'd put Nikola Jokic, I'd put Paul George, and I'd put Joel Embiid kind of in that top area. And I would even include Kevin Durant in that to round out a top 5. Jokic is averaging a triple-double, which has never been done by a big man, only done by Russell Westbrook and Oscar Robertson. Jokic has been unbelievable, and I already talked about how he's usually had to play himself into shape in previous years, but now he's already a little bit more in shape, so he's gone straight to production. The Denver Nuggets have been missing Michael Porter Jr., and so that's why they've been lower in the standings. But I believe that MPJ can come back and produce, or they are a team that 100% could be in the Bradley Beal sweepstakes if there's a trade available. And if they rise up and finish in one of those top 4 seeds in the West, I could definitely see Jokic in that top 3 MVP voting category. He's been really, really great.
Just such a unique player.
He's so bizarre to watch, but so fascinating how they all just kind of orbit him. The next guy I guess I'll talk about is Paul George. He heard all the criticism, and everyone still can criticize him, and it's fun to criticize Pandemic P, but he has come back this season and been superb. 25, 6, and 5. He's shooting 50% from 3 so far this season, which is far and away, it's ridiculous. It's never been done. And obviously you expect him to come back down to earth a little bit, but he has been an absolute flamethrower. I don't think he'll ever be in the top 3 MVP when you've got Kawhi Leonard on your team. It's hard to be in that MVP conversation when there's probably a better player on your team. But right now, Kawhi has been a little bit taking a backseat to Paul George because he's been so brilliant. And I got to give him his props, even if I've criticized him in the past.
I mean, you do have LeBron James playing next to Anthony Davis as your number one MVP, and maybe some similarities in Davis and Leonard taking a quick step back. So I guess we'll get as we get closer, just the question of team seeding versus individual stat line will get interesting.
Yeah, I think the difference in the LeBron situation is Anthony Davis is a lot more valuable on the defensive end, and the MVP tends to be a more offensive award. And so without LeBron James, the offense runs through him. He's the playmaker, and that is what separates. I think Kawhi Leonard can take on some of that playmaking from Paul George. They handle the ball equally, but Anthony Davis needs LeBron a little bit more so in that regard, just to set him up and make plays. I think if you take LeBron off the Lakers, they're in a lot more trouble than if you took Anthony Davis off the Lakers. So that's just kind of the balance I see there. Moving along, we'll talk about the Joel Embiid revenge tour. He's been on a mission so far this season. I think he's finally maturing. Doc Rivers is a coach that is going to put him in the right spot to succeed. He's averaging 25 points, 11 and a half rebounds, 3 assists, and 1.5 blocks a game. But there's definitely room for him to raise that block total. Like, he is the defensive anchor of that team. Uh, and the biggest thing for Embiid is he has to stay healthy this season. And if he does, he definitely could be first team All NBA. Yeah, and definitely be in the running for the MVP, because I think people have realized that both players at their peaks, Embiid is probably more valuable to a team than Ben Simmons. And then rounding out the top 5, I got Kevin Durant, who is shooting the cover off the ball. He's got averaging 30.5 points per game, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. He's shooting 48% from 3 right now, which is Paul George territory. Both of them have been elite snipers so far. I think with Harden and Kyrie, none of those 3 are going to have a shot at the MVP, but I just have to shout out, like, Durant is without a doubt the best player on that team, and they're going to need him to play a lot of defense, which worries me with his Achilles injury. But Durant right now, and he'll go down in the rankings as these other guys get their stats, but right now he's definitely in the top 5 MVP conversation.
Quarterly report, 1 quarter in. Also, a bunch of those numbers come from him being like the only superstar in the lineup, while Kyrie was on his pause and Harden wasn't yet in the lineup. So you do expect to see the numbers dim a little.
Okay, so we went through the top 5, and then I got 3 more guys I want to shout out in terms of statistics, and then 2 more guys who are in that kind of outside bucket. But we got Luka Doncic, 27, 10, and 9, almost a triple-double. The Mavs have suffered from injuries, and Luka is going to get every team's best defensive effort on him every night. And so the fact that he continues to put up video game numbers is just ridiculous. So he's been really, really impressive. And this Mavs team is only going to improve once they get Richardson back and once they get some of their key guys back. Steph Curry, 28, 5 and 6, and a much needed 28, 5 and 6. The Warriors need him to be special every night, and that is what he has done so far. Again, same thing with him is as the season goes along, will he get beat down a little bit? He is a smaller guard who will take a lot of physical punishment. So worries about him staying healthy, staying 100%. And the best thing about Steph is when he's fully operating, he's just so fun to watch. He's just a guy that is different than a lot of players. Like when he is on fire, it's truly a spectacle. And so he's been really fun. And if this Warriors team continues to climb up the board, you could see him jump into that MVP conversation.
I mean, it's going to be on his back if the Warriors are at the top. And I mean, you're talking about when he's on fire, he's such a spectacle to watch. What's even almost more fascinating to me is even when he's not on fire, he's still so dangerous. I mean, like that step back 3 against Davis the other night to like get the win over the Lakers after like a pretty mediocre game from him is what truly differentiates like the elite top level talent in the league from the rest, that you can have a bad night and then still be the guy in the clutch moment. So love to see that.
The last guy I want to talk about is the 2-time defending MVP, who somehow I haven't talked about yet, Giannis Antetokounmpo. People are sleeping on him because of the voter fatigue with the MVP award, yet he continues to put up ridiculous numbers. He's 27, 10, and 5, which is, and he's doing this in his sleep. Like, it's just so easy for him. And Drew has been fantastic for the Bucks so far. Middleton is really, really solid. They're a team that sacrificed a little bit on the defensive side and turned it up on the offensive side. So we'll see how they manage to figure that out later on in the season. But I mean, Giannis is consistently one of the best players in the league. And the issue that he's facing right now is he's got to figure out his free throws. He's got the yips. He shot 1 of 10 the other night. He's like in the 50s in terms of percentage. So he really needs to get that figured out, because if not, then I don't know if he'll ever ascend into that like LeBron, KD, Kawhi territory because of the late. Do you trust his late game shooting heroics?
Yeah. I don't know if you caught the Brooklyn Bucks game, any of it.
Pieces. Yeah.
It's just
It,
interesting because like the Bucks were at the top of the East at that moment in time, and then like if anyone was going to take the mantle, it was going to be Brooklyn, or there's that kind of hype around Brooklyn then and still now. So just interesting, like symbolically, like is this going to be a passing of the guard of like the number one team in the East? And I mean, Durant hitting a clutch three to put it away, but then like Giannis still almost brought it back off like an alley-oop rebound on like a Middleton three, which was the last shot the Bucks chose. So like just I mean, it stood out to me how like ridiculously athletic and dangerous Giannis is when like he can have absolutely nothing to do with the play and still have like a 40% chance of like getting you the bucket on second chance.
he should have he should have signed with Dallas. That would have been the best. He Giannis is a little bit like modern day Shaq, if anyone could be like Shaq, just in terms of like the around the
Free
rim
throws.
production. Yeah, the free throws. But I think he needs Drew and Chris Middleton. If you could combine them into like one superstar uh perimeter player like Luca, that is what Giannis needs. He needs the Kobe to his Shaq. And I don't know if Middleton and Drew are the guys, but hopefully they are because I do like to see him have success and stay in his hometown market. All right, the last two guys I want to shout out are just Jason Tatum and Domantas Sabonis. They've been fantastic so far in the early stages of the season. They still have a lot of room to grow, Tatum in particular, but I just wanted to shout them out because they've been great so far, and yeah, really fun to watch. Um, there have been no Raptors at all in the conversation. Maybe Kyle because of his on-off numbers. If if you take a look at it, like the Raptors are hopeless when he's not on the court, which is crazy to think that because he's so late into his career now. The fact that he's still relied on heavily as the guy, it truly says something about the importance and the significance of Kyle Lowry's career. That wrapped things up for the